Okay, it looks like we are live and we've got four people here. Four brave, restless souls who are watching this at the moment. Five. It's expanding. We are expanding. So let me know whether you can hear me and see me. Let me know whether you can see the dazzle of my t-shirt. And we will get the show on the road. And I've got a lot of stuff today. Well, suddenly we've got 12 people. It's expanding and I'm dripping water on myself. Dick is here. Hi, Dick. How you doing? From Dover. Dick from Dover's here. So obviously people can hear me. I'm going to drink the rest of my espresso. D. Lee's here. Hi. Peter's here. How you doing? Phryne's here as well. Lee's here. Yucky da. Four Sales here. Hey, the crowd's here. Going to have the rest of my coffee, and we can get the show on the road. Got a bit of show and tell and all of that kind of jazz. The other thing I'm announcing is if I get any super chats, and it's not mandatory, don't think I'm holding a ray pistol to your head. We're going to get the fart gun, but we're also going to get some rare movie trivia. I've got a bunch of movie trivia that I especially dug out of the archives and did some deep diving on. And I give a piece of trivia along with the super chats. So that's just something there to put chum in the water. And Carol's here as well. Great, Dick. Yep, Friday can hear and see me, so all is good. The other side of the planet is zeroing in pretty well. Yeah, so I'll tell you the interesting thing first. Well, one of the interesting things first. After I sip this. I did jury duty last Tuesday. I took my summons down to the county court in Melbourne and did jury duty. I went through the scanners and all that kind of thing. And there was the way we do it here in Australia, or at least in Victoria, is they have a jury pool and then you have a lottery to see who gets to be in a smaller jury pool to go up to the court. And then in the court, there's another selection, and the 12 jurors are selected from that. So I went there in the morning. It's a big area. They got a pool table in the jury pool area. So we're all there. They explain the process to us. They explain the rules. Really nice people. You got coffee and biscuits and things there. And so we get the first selection. My name doesn't come up in the first selection of 48. And then about an hour later, we get the second selection. My name doesn't come up. And then they take a break for lunch. And we got a 2-hour lunch break, which kind of felt good, even though it was my time anyway. So I went down and found a Malaysian fast food franchise called Mary Brown, and got like a nasi lemak, a really nice Malaysian food. Got back there. My name's the first name called out in the third tranche of 5 groups of people. And so we go up to the court. The court is kind of nice, and all of us are sitting where the journalists and things like that usually sit. And they start calling out the names for this particular court case. I'll tell you what it is in a moment. So the 12 jurors get called out, and I'm not one of them. Then the jurors are signed in either from a secular affirmation or by doing the superstition thing. And they tell us about the court case, and then we go back downstairs. We wait another hour. They send us home. Our jury duty is finished. The court case was about a man who drove recklessly on a country road in Victoria, and that resulted in the death of a man on a motorcycle. The guy pled not guilty, and just my impression of this geezer, not mentioning names or anything like that, he looked really angry, and he looked like he was an entitled older man who was affronted that anybody would dare to challenge his denial of this thing that happened. So it was really interesting experience. Took the whole day. They paid me $40, which I've now put toward the purchase of Blu-rays. But that's it. That's the jury duty story, and it got me out of the house for a day. It was interesting, but oddly enough, because of the weight of it, like the cultural weight of being selected for a jury duty, I was bloody tired by the time I got home. I've been out a lot longer than that doing other things, but just the kind of gravitas of doing this jury duty exhausted me. Yeah, Dick, they had a pool table. Dick says, I've done jury duty myself and ours didn't have a pool table. Nobody used a pool table, which is odd. I read books on my Kindle. I read a whole McCarran novel nearly on my Kindle while I was sitting around waiting for jury duty. But did my duty. I'm glad that we have that system. I'm glad that there's a cultural obligation for us to be part of the legal process and for us to be in the jury and have the possibility of being part of keeping civilization together in a weird way. One of the things that looked a little bit odd is one of the guys selected for the jury duty looked a bit lost and bewildered. He was older than me. I don't know whether he was starting to maybe lose his marbles a little bit. He gave that impression. So that's a little bit sad. But on the whole, that's what I did. Put me behind on my videos. Okay, Peter's on again. Yep, okay, so Peter can hear and see me in Adelaide, so that's good. Yeah, so jury duty, totally unlike anything in movies. Dick did a 2-week stint I had to do, sat around the court canteen for the first week. Yeah, that reminds me for some reason of when I got my redundancy from the public service. I was working for the Commonwealth Employment Service way back in the last century. And a Conservative government came in and privatised it all. Took a year of us sitting around an office for us to get our redundancy packages. They were hoping people would just give up and quit so they didn't have to be paid redundancy. But we stuck it out for a year. We just basically surfed the very early internet for almost a whole year. We got paid, and then we got our redundancy packages, and I traveled for a little bit. But yeah, I think I'm traumatized by that. Other things happened in my life at the time. Ralph's been caught up 4 times. I've never been selected because my best friend is a retired police officer of 26 years. I'm not sure why that relates. But I would have been happy to be selected. It would have been an even more interesting experience. I was fully willing to do it and to give it my best shot as far as following the evidence and not letting the fact that the accused person gave off a very shitty vibe. I was willing to do all that, but it didn't happen. I wish the jurors well. I hope it goes quickly. It was supposed to go for about 7 working days. So they'd be getting to the last day or 2 of the court case, probably about Thursday this week. But yeah, no Perry Masons. Judge was lovely. She was really good and gentle with the pool of potential jurors and with the jury itself. Incredibly supportive of everybody. It's the kind of judge you want. It's not like a big old character actor in a robe sitting up in front of everybody. It was a very nice lady of a certain age who really knew what she was doing. She handled it all with a lot of compassion. Forsell's been caught up 5 times but never selected. I'm being caught up again in August. That's a bit weird that there are so few people that you're getting called up a lot. Either that or where you live has a shit ton of court cases that go to jury trials. Dick says, sat on 2 cases for the 2nd week. Okay. Ralph says, I love to serve, but the closeness with a cop known him for 45 years supposedly skews my attitude. But it doesn't stop them calling me. That's odd, Ralph, because I've got friends I don't believe. If I had a friend who was a cop, I would listen to them, but I wouldn't let it skew who I was and how I judge things. And I'm sure you're the same. I'm sure you're a rational and reasonable man. But yeah, that seems odd that maybe the jury process is different where you are. I mean, there were two people who recused themselves from being selected in the smaller pool. And to do that, they had to write down their reason on a piece of paper. And that was then handed to the judge, and the judge made the determination whether they were recused from the pool. The judge agreed with them, and without saying what their reasons were. And again, privacy is very important in this. It's a whole anonymized process. We were known by our numbers. And the other thing is our occupations. So my occupation said movie reviewer, which was very cool, but my number was 120. People were known by their numbers. The anonymizing of potential and actual jurors was done incredibly well. Oh, lawyers, Ralph says. Yeah, okay. That explains it. The process we have is when your name's called to be in the jury, you've got to walk past the accused and then around to the jury corral, and they have a chance to knock you back, which the defendant can do 3 times during the process. In a commercial litigation, they get more options to do that, but nobody was denied by the accused and his lawyer in this case. All the jury was accepted. So yeah, it's probably a very different process where you are. So did that. It's not as interesting as 12 Angry Men, or even, where is it? Or even Compulsion. We didn't have Orson Welles making a speech, but it's sometimes interesting to see how the sausage is made. So what else have we got? What will I do first? Things I've been watching. We will do things I've been watching. Dick says, myself and other members of the jury in one case ended up sitting opposite the accused's girlfriend and family on the same tube train when going home. Weird feeling. Yeah, I'm sure it would have been. It's kind of heavy. I mean, being even part of that process in any way is a very serious thing. And the thing that I found very heartening about it was, even in the large jury pool at the start, everybody treated it seriously. Everybody was respectful citizens, and that's great. There wasn't anybody acting like a dickhead in any way as a part of that process, and I like that. It's a part of the better nature of Australian culture, that when you've got an obligation, like when you go to vote, everybody lines up politely. It doesn't matter whether you've got nutcase opinions and you're going to be voting for a rat bag. When we go to vote, everybody lines up politely and is cordial to other people. It's just the way we are here. Dempsey, morning everyone from wet and overcast Nipaluna. Hope all is well. Yeah, we're doing. I haven't done a weather report yet. What's the weather like where you guys are? It's going to be rainy here, and it's 13 degrees centigrade at the moment. What's the weather forecast while I get myself organized for the rest of this? By the way, I sent Deb some movies as promised in the last live stream, and she's enjoying them. So, weather forecast, people. I'm so organized today. I've got pages and pages of notes. D. Lee says, bright but chilly. Dick says, been sunny and cloudy today when we went to the Comic-Con locally. Yeah, I saw Carol's Facebook post on that one, Dick. Forsale says, 31 degrees centigrade and sunny. It's a record breaker. Yeah, weather's been weird. It's like 7:15 in the morning here. And to have 13 degrees centigrade at this time of year is weird. our Manchurian pear tree in the front yard, which is a big tree, normally has all of its leaves fallen by this time of year. In fact, by 2 weeks ago. It's still got most of the leaves. Some of them are starting to turn. But the autumnal weather has been delayed for weird climate-related reasons here at the moment. Deb says, and thank you very much for the movies. Loved Went the Day Well. Yeah, it's brutal for a 1940s English film, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah, the weather's getting colder. I've actually got to organise a travel vlog too for this week. I'm not sure when. But he says, Adelaide, stars in the moon visible, possums just going to bed. Cool. Friday says, but I did deliver writs to a stabbing case for work experience in the roughest area of Birmingham. Not a day to be wearing a suit and pink shirt. Yeah, that would have been a little bit fraught. Carol says we got from really warm to bloody freezing in May, supposedly warming up the end of the coming week. Okay. 6:45 a.m. says Peter, where he is. 30 degrees C in Clearwater, Florida. It was a little warmer until a thunderstorm 20 minutes ago. It's 17:50, so it's like 5:15 in the afternoon. Cool. And you are definitely where all the Florida crime novels are set, Ralph. But yeah, so anyway, getting on with it. What I watched last night, I sat down with Jill the cat, the shy cat, our older cat, Jill, who's 14, and a great big black puffball of a cat. She's not fat, but she's got a lot of fur. And we watched a movie of Marlon Brando's that nobody likes. Dick says it's 10:16 in the evening where he is. Carol says, hospital trip last week, waiting for a bus in a winter coat and gloves. Weird. Yeah. Yeah, the weather is getting chaotic. We've just got to acknowledge that, I think. Anyway, Marlon Brando movie that most people don't like, but I kind of like because it's weird. We've got Marlon Brando, Richard Boone, Pamela Franklin's in it as well, Jesse Hahn, and Rita Moreno. Hey, FG, how you doing? The Night of the Following Day, which I picked up at Play. I like this film, directed by Hubert Kornfeld, who, in spite of his name, was actually Turkish. Weird little crime movie about a bunch of people who kidnap an heiress, played by Pamela Franklin. I like this film. I think it's a hidden gem. It feels more like a French movie than an American or English film. So watch that. Ferrani grabbed a Blu-ray of Valley of Gwangi and CEX. Cool. I've only got DVD of Valley of Gwangi, which is a shame. But good haul there, Ferrani. Yeah, Night of the Following Day I recommend. This is the Powerhouse version. It's got a ton of extras on it, which is good. But Brando's 44 when he made this film, and he's really fit. He's like Stanley Kowalski fit. He must have had a moment when he got his act together and his physical stuff together. He looks really good in this film. Even though the wig is a little bit obvious, it could be part of the character. Richard Boone is great as always. And the other thing too is that you get a booklet with this one, which I kind of like. And that shows you how fit Brando was in the movie. Really interesting hidden gem, this one. There's the director, Hubert Kornfeld. For Sale says, big fan of Richard Boone and Have Gun Will Travel series. I have all 6 seasons on DVD. So do I. I like Paladin as a character. I think he was very interesting because a lot of Western heroes in the 1950s/1960s TV weren't intellectuals, but Paladin was an intellectual. He read, he knew things, he was educated, and that made it very different than all the other Westerns where people were either Civil War veterans, usually on the wrong side, or cowboys. Having somebody who's got a little bit more awareness makes Paladin a really interesting character. And I think Genesis is called The Story of How Paladin Became Paladin is really interesting with Richard Boone playing a dual role in that episode. Great series. I used to have I was really young. I must have been like 4 or 5. And I had a Have Gun Will Travel t-shirt. And this is back before t-shirts with logos on them weren't a big thing. It shattered me when I grew out of it. It really, my mother made rags out of it to clean things with. And it really shattered me that I no longer had a Have Gun Will Travel t-shirt. I should get someone to make me one. But it is what it is. Okay, that's it. I'm going to Google Have Gun Will Travel t-shirts. Are they still a thing? They are, you know. Shit, they are. Okay, I'm going to have to get one. I'm going to bookmark that sucker. I'm going to get a Have Gun Will Travel t-shirt at some stage. D. Lee says, I was watching a film today that had Peter Sellers playing a man named Lionel, whose surname begins with M, and which have When Johnny Comes Marching Home on the soundtrack. Yeah, Never Let Go. Never Let Go is a crazy good film with Peter Sellers playing a brutal, sadistic gangster against Richard Todd. That movie is one to see because it's the road not traveled in the career of Peter Sellers. And Peter Sellers could have been a good character instead of a mimic, in a sense. I would have liked Peter Sellers to have taken that career. I think Peter Sellers as a solid character actor playing villains in particular, which is probably closer to his nature than other things, would have been great. But Never Let Go, if you can find a copy of that somewhere, may well be on YouTube, really is a hidden gem. It's kind of like a Brit noir in a sense, where Richard Todd plays a guy who's not very adept at living civilian life after the war. And he's a salesman. His car gets pinched. He tracks down who pinched his car. Great movie. You should check that one out if you get a chance. Write it down because occasionally I see copies of it on DVD in thrift stores here. I've got myself a DVD copy of it as well. But it is a movie that deserves a lot more love and respect. And it will totally change the way you see Peter Sellers as an actor. But yeah, good haul there, Dealey. That is a really fine film. What else have I been watching? While we're on the subject of shit people have been watching. Don't have it here. Okay, got one of the things I'm watching. I've got them both hanging. They're on the bottom of the pile here. I watched this movie, a science fiction movie from 2000, which was interesting mostly because they cut the budget in half while they were making the movie. But I don't think it's very good, to be honest with you. It's a thing called Supernova, starring James Spader and Angela Bassett, about a medical spaceship that goes on a rescue mission and finds a guy and also a weird alien artifact, which is nine-dimensional matter or something like that, which is an alien artifact, and they haven't met aliens yet. And it has weird effects on people. It does feel a little bit like it was following in the footsteps of Event Horizon, another science fiction movie I don't particularly care for. But this one's got a reasonable cast. Lou Diamond Phillips is in it. Wilson Cruz, Robin Tunney. You do get Robert Forster, though. His character dies really quickly at the start of the film, which is a bit of a shame because Robert Forster I'm very much in favour of. For some reason, I've never seen it. And I found it at an op shop for $1. I think this is one of the ones I got when I was up in Echuca, up on the border. But Supernova, See it if you want to, but it's not one I can with a whole heart recommend. It's not that great. Partly directed by Walter Hill, who took his name off the movie, which says something about it. Francis Ford Coppola did a swipe at the edit on this one as well. It's a movie that's been chopped and changed so much. It's hard to tell what the original intention was, and there are several different versions of it. This says this is the uncut version, not seen at cinemas, whatever that means in this context. It is one of those ones where the studio just took a hatchet to the movie. D. Lee says, I think Sellers never did anything like that again because there's too much of the real him in it. Yeah. And also the comedies were paying better. But yeah, Supernova, take it or leave it. Dick says, watched all the original Toxic Avenger films recently. I started watching the Class of Nukem High films. Gone on a bit of a Troma film revisit from my past. I love Troma films. Tromeo and Juliet I love. Lemmy from Motorhead doing iambic pentameter in Tromeo and Juliet is just great. I love the aesthetic of Troma, the unashamedly street-level grunginess of Troma films is something that I embrace. And it reminds me of my past kind of Saturday evenings going to the shelves of my local video store in places, like the shelves that few people travel to, and finding shit tons of Troma films. I've got a lot of Troma films. I got the Toxic Avenger box set from Umbrella a while back, which includes the new Toxic Avenger movie, which I haven't watched yet. And I got them all of them are on 4K, which is really nice. But I've also got the Class of Nukem High movies. I've got Troma's War, which is a little bit of an obscurity. I've got Tromeo and Juliet. I just love Troma. Deb says Tromeo and Juliet is so much fun. It is. And Carol says, use my time off after my op to catch up on the Marvel films. Now watching some of the TV shows as well. Yeah, I watched one of the TV shows this week, Carol. I watched the one-off Punisher One Last Kill, which is a little Punisher piece that... Sorry, I've got a blocked up nose. I'm going to have to unblock it. And before you think it's cocaine or something, it's not. Yeah, with John Bernthal playing Frank Castle, the Punisher. It's only 50 minutes long, and it's kind of like the Punisher doing the Raid films with Iko Uwais, where Frank Castle has killed the crime gang that's killed his family, except for one woman who's the matriarch of the family. She's played by Judith Light, and she's in a wheelchair. It's pretty clear she's had a cerebral incident, and she gets every criminal in Little Sicily in New York, which is the equivalent of Little Italy in real life New York, to take him down because they found out where he is. She's put out a contract on him. And every crim with a knife, a gun, or a machete starts attacking this one building where Frank Castle is. And there's 50 minutes of pure bloody mayhem. And Bernthal, as Frank Castle, the Punisher, is fantastic. He's really clearly incredibly PTSD'd by not only his family dying, but his efforts as a soldier. And that comes across. And it's just like 50 minutes of brutal mayhem. And I was there for that. I wasn't expecting anything more than that. Some people were expecting a lot more because previous one-offs in Marvel have been in a very different tone. But this one's like balls to the wall, John Wicky, the Raid kind of action. And I really enjoyed it. Carol says, I enjoyed Ms. Marvel, but found Secret Invasion very dark, total opposite. Secret Invasion shit, to be honest with you. I like Moon Knight. You might want to check out Moon Knight, Carol. Friday says, I stopped watching Secret Invasion when they killed one of my favorite characters. Also, it was a bit boring. Yeah, it was undercooked. It should have been, if they were going to commit to it, they should have put more money to it and run the script through a couple more iterations. Having said that, I'm looking forward to whatever Marvel does next. One of the things that pisses me off is things like Fantastic Four, which I really like, aren't available here. And I don't have the money to pay import prices for it. But I do like the Marvel movies, and I will continue to watch them. So I watched the Punisher thing. I watch all the Marvel stuff that comes up on Disney Plus. It's the only reason I've got Disney Plus, in fact. Occasionally there are other things that I watch, but for the most part, that's it. And Sal watches some things on Disney Plus, so we keep that as a subscription. I'm watching The Boys as well. The Boys is a lot of fun. Last episode drops in a couple of days. Last episode ever in the 5 seasons of The Boys drops in a couple of days. And it's almost like trauma superhero, in a sense, The Boys. Because there are things like there's a superhero in a retirement village in this season whose superpower is he has a stretchy scrotum and like powerful balls, which he swings around like a weapon. You got that kind of shit happening in it. Yeah, Deb says, didn't enjoy Secret Invasion, love Moon Knight. Dick's also rewatching the 92-93 Batman animated series. Good stuff. What I really like is the Brave and the Bold. Yeah, the Brave and the Bold series has got lots of deep cut DC characters like Wildcat and all sorts of other ones in there. That's a series to watch if you can do, because as far as Disney animation, that's pretty much up there. Brave and the Bold was fantastic. Forsyth says the recent Fantastic Four movie was the best Marvel movie in my opinion. Looked like it was ripped from the pages of a Jack Kirby comic book. Yeah, that 1960s futuristic vibe really works for me. I really should try to find a way to get a copy of it, because I do want to. I've got all of the other Marvel movies, but I don't have that one. I would even get an illicit copy of it if I could, because if Disney doesn't want to sell physical media in Australia, people are going to go bootleg, and I would not be adverse to doing that if it was a good bootleg. But yeah, so I'm watching The Boys, enjoying The Boys. Going to watch the last episode. Sally and I are watching the last couple of episodes together, which we rarely do, because we watched the first few episodes of the first season of The Boys together. So we're going to watch the last episode this week together. Raf says, hello, Mr. Terrier. It's me again, Raf from Belfast. How you doing, Rafa? Yeah, welcome to the club. But yeah, so we're going to watch the last episode of The Boys, which I like. A lot of characters I like in that series. But we'll see how we go. And there are a lot of people that are putting high hopes in the last episode of The Boys, because it's got to tie up the Homelander plot arc. And one of the things about The Boys that is really fantastic is there's some really good acting in it. Anthony Starr playing Homelander, the big bad guy, the evil Superman in that series, is a terrific actor, crazily underrated. I hope he goes on to do more wonderful things. But he is something very special when it comes to acting. Carol says, I've watched WandaVision, Loki, 2 seasons, Daredevil 1, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, all of the X-Men, Wolverine. Got to watch the latest Spidey film yet, and now on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, Daredevil Born Again, you should watch as well, the 2 seasons of that. D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox going off against each other is just chef's kiss. Deb says, love Fantastic Four. I think mid-20th century futurism pushes a big nostalgia button for many of us. Yeah, indeed. Hey, Dog's Dad's here as well. Late to the party. How much time is left? You got an hour and a half almost, Dog's Dad. So you're here, and great for that. So I recommend sticking around, because we've got more stuff to do. What else did I watch? I watched this. This one's a deep cut. This one's a little hard to find. I found a copy of this in Echuca up on the New South Wales border, when I did my travel vlog to Echuca. It's not a great film. It's based on a comedic science fiction novel from the 1950s by Frederick Brown. It's got Randy Quaid in it, and it's a thing called Martians Go Home, which is about a Martian invasion of goofy Martians who are green and teleport into every situation. 1 billion Martians suddenly teleport into Earth, and they're all like stand-up comedians. They're all wacky. They're all disrupting the human race in all sorts of ways. People can be making love, and a Martian will pop up and critique their lovemaking. It's a little bit funny. It's a little bit weird. It's a little bit fun. Randy Quaid isn't as nutty as he got later. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's fantastic. It was produced by a very fine producer who doesn't get enough love, a guy called Edward Pressman, who apparently was a really honest film producer, surprisingly enough. But that's for the collection because I do collect obscure science fiction movies, and that was another $1 buy. Really, really hard to find. It's a hidden gem. It's a unicorn. Go watch that. Carol says, watch New Mutants yesterday. Enjoyed it, but they had characters from the comics. Brilliant in the horror setting. Working my way through everything in the Marvel section on Disney Plus as you're paying for it. Absolutely, go for it. But Daredevil Born Again, I recommend you hit, Carol, because the acting in that is just, champagne. And the weird thing is, in spite of the antagonism, Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are good friends in real life, which I kind of like. I like it when people who are cordial to each other are playing against each other, and it does seem to kind of lift the game. Rafa says, what's my opinion of Madam Web? Not that great. I've got it on 4K for some reason. But Madam Web, I like because it's such a train wreck of bad decisions. And that movie is kind of weird. Deb says, Daredevil Born Again is next level good. It is, absolutely. Just the critique of contemporary America that's involved in that series is sharp and to the point. Carol says, we'll get there. Just so much to watch and so little time. Yeah. Yeah, Dealey. Sidney Poitier and Rod Steiger were friends and played off against each other in the heat of the night. Just, that lifting all boats kind of stuff and I've seen it in a couple of things. I can't remember where, but I was watching this week where they had a really, really good older character actor playing with younger actors. And you could see the younger actors taking energy and inspiration from the older actor and that lifting their game and their skills and their talents. And that's always interesting to watch. I always like watching the acting where an older, experienced character actor is giving energy to younger actors for them to show their potential. That stuff I totally love. I'm totally there for that. I really, really enjoy it. Carol says, damn, Madam Web going to be on the list. Forgot that one. Yeah, Madam Web, I'd have a cocktail before you watch that one. And Deb's right. Madam Web is terrible. Dakota Johnson is one of those Nepo baby actors who's not very good. There are other Nepo baby actors who are great. Jack Quaid's great in The Boys, for instance. And there are people like Margaret Qualley, whose mother's Andie MacDowell. And she's really good in that, in everything I've seen her in. But there are Nepo babies like the Dakota Johnson who, for whatever reason, either don't commit to it or don't have the mindset to really lift their acting above ordinary. I like it when I think the Nepo Baby title is a bit of a poison chalice, but there are so many second, third, fourth generation actors who do good work And because they do that, the ones that don't do good work are a lot more visible to us. Captain Laser says, "In the Heat of the Night" was one of those high school class films that you end up liking. Yeah. And Dogstad says, "Sidney Poitier was one of a kind. Just finished watching The Bedford Incident." That's a nice hidden gem, The Bedford Incident, with the kind of colorblind casting in it, as well as what it ends up doing. A fantastic film. D. Lee says, "The Sony non-Spider-Man films don't have a good reputation." No, they don't. Carol says, "I'll sit through most films. It's really bad. I'll just take the mick. The early Fantastic Four films spring to mind." Yeah. And Deb says, "My favorite Nepo baby has to be Jamie Lee Curtis." Jamie Lee Curtis is fantastic in everything. Forsyth says, "Bedford Incident has a shocking ending." Yeah, it does. Please don't spoil it. I want people to watch it and just go on the journey of it. Rafa, you don't have to call me Mr. Terry. You can just say Terry, okay? I'm from an egalitarian culture. I'm not comfortable with any kind of honorific. Dogstad says, "Bedford is a retelling of Moby Dick." I don't think so. Jane Fonda and Ida Lupino were good Nepo babies, yeah, because Ida Lupino came from an English music hall family. Lupino Lane was her uncle, and her parents were in music halls. But Peter says, "Al Lewis in The Munsters and Jonathan Harris Lost in Space were older actors who inspired the rest of their respective casts." Yeah, they did. And I like that. I like that mentorship that comes with a certain kind of actor. There are other actors who keep their talents to themselves and aren't generous with the interactions with other actors, and that's a shame. And even on things like doing this, there are people who are reviewing movies I know who are much younger than me. I mean, I know movie reviewers who are in their 20s, and every time I see them, and they're good. They have different insights than I do because, of course, we're from different cultures because we're from different generations. And every time I see them, I try to be encouraging and not mentor as much, but try to share what I know with them in a way and tell them about movies they might not know about that are definitely in the kind of movies they like. So I do try to do that and try to encourage them to watch things they wouldn't watch otherwise or don't know about otherwise. And that's always a fun thing to do. Captain Laser says, "Carrie Fisher was great, though drugs got in the way." Absolutely. She definitely, Vanessa and Lynn Redgrave, as D. Lee says. Just so many good actors come out of that. But then there are other people who, for whatever reason, don't commit to the bit. And I think Dakota Johnson is probably one of those. Rafa says, "Saw that imprint films in Australia released the Long Riders in a box set Blu-ray collection. That made me very happy and proud of physical media collections." Yeah, it is. Imprint is doing great stuff. In fact, I've got 2 imprint 4Ks that I'm going to review in the week. And they're 1990s kind of neo-noir crime films that weren't really on my radar either. I've got to watch them in the next couple of days. But that's probably for the Wednesday video. But Imprint have got some weird and wild stuff coming out. As indeed does Umbrella. So I'm looking forward to whatever they put out next as well. Still haven't got through these movies that I got from Play. I mean, I still haven't rewatched Compulsion. I still haven't watched Throne of Blood, which I haven't seen yet. Haven't rewatched Panic in the Streets. Haven't rewatched Point Blank because I only watched it this year. So I'm going to watch that next year. And The Mind of Mr. Soames, which I only had a bootleg that some arsehole sold me on eBay. Dogstad says, who are the current acting dynasties worth watching? I think Jack Quaid's interesting. He's definitely taking the character actor route. His mother was Meg Ryan, his father's Dennis Quaid. I think he's worth watching. Who else have we got? I'm trying to think. Anybody got suggestions? Raf says, you showed us Signal 1 Entertainment Blu-ray. Very cool. I've asked you not to use honorifics, please. I really am uncomfortable with that. Forsyth says, I think Jeff Bridges is a superb actor. He's the son of Lloyd Bridges, star of Sea Hunt. Yeah. Jeff Bridges is good playing cranky old guys now. Front of Blood's good. Macbeth is Little Caesar. Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch it. Deb says Max Irons is worth watching. Okay, cool. But yeah, we'll see who comes up. What I want to see more than Nepo Babies is there are some really interesting non-white actors who are doing interesting things. One of the things that's pissing off the right-wing people, of which I am always in favor, is that Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey has a very wide-ranging cast of actors of different ethnicities playing the roles. And I think it's Lupita Nyong'o is playing Helena Troy. And this has pissed off the right-wing nutjobs no end. She's a fine actress, and yes, she does have a face that would launch 1,000 ships. But racists are really losing their shit over the casting in The Odyssey. Yeah, Lee says, I hate being called sir by customer service. It's almost a free pass for them to be rude. Yeah, I mean, you and I are both from egalitarian cultures, Lee. You Wales, me Australia. We don't like people using honorifics with us. I mean, if you've noticed on the channel, anytime somebody's got a knighthood or a damehood or something like that, I never reference that when I'm talking about the actor. I refuse to. It's just not part of my culture to honor honorifics. Rafa says, did I watch The Hitcher from 1986? Watched it yesterday with my 3 friends. Really enjoyed that. Yeah, I got the Umbrella 4K of The Hitcher. It's in the Umbrella playlist on the channel. Really interesting film. Rutger Hauer really letting the crazy out to play. Dealey says, are these the same people who didn't like The Black Little Mermaid? They probably are. Lee says, 100%, I got no time for pathetic imperial baubles. Too right. I saw that Plaid Cymru won a lot of things in the Senate in Wales during that recent election. So that's good stuff. But yeah, I mean, very egalitarian, this channel. Very socialistic. For some reason, I'm very thirsty today. But yeah, that's the thing. Is one of the things I think people of a certain political persuasion dislike is the fact that Star Trek is so incredibly socialist at its core, and it pisses them all off. Star Wars, not so much. Star Wars is World War II, fought over and over and over again. Lee says, I didn't get elected, though I'm glad of a play government. Absolutely. I'm sorry that you didn't, but, you know, you're on the side of the angels, mate, and your side is doing well. Now you just got to get rid of that attachment to the colonizers, and everybody will be happy. Well, not everybody, but all the right people will be happy. But, you know, good on you for having a go, Lee. Congratulations, mate. Yeah, so what else have we got on the list? Lee says, oh, Star Trek's absolutely the reason I'm a progressive. Absolutely. Dogstad said, I finally watched Project Hail Mary, pretty much stuck in the book, but just okay for me. What about you? I kind of liked it, but I like the fact they use a lot of practical special effects. I think it's there's a darkness to it as well. The fact that they, the plot twist is very dark in that movie, but I don't mind it. Lee says, thank you. Look, we're all on the same side, mate. Friday James says, Star Wars is the chosen one. Star Trek is about education and opportunity. Yeah, it's about exploration and ultimately friendship. So much of Star Trek is about forming communities, and that's kind of interesting too. Friday loves Rocky. Yeah, Temu is starting to sell Rocky toys, which are kind of cool. I'll show you something I got from Temu, which I don't think I've shown on the channel yet. Hang on. Does everybody remember Tars, the robot from Interstellar? Hi, Adam. How you doing? I've got a Tars toy that I got from Temu. Hang on, let me get it the right way around for you. See, Tars, the robot from Interstellar. It's cheap. It looks like it might be 3D printed. It might not be. But I've got a Tars that I picked up for a couple of bucks as a part of a job lot on Temu. I buy a lot of clothes from Temu because they're cheap. And I don't mind that they wear out. They're just useful. Rafa says, I was rewatching a second time the Cronenberg last directed body horror called The Shroud, starring Vincent Cassel. Man, that film was insane. Yeah, I want to see that. I haven't seen it yet, so please don't do any spoilers. But I do want to see The Shrouds. D. Lee says, somebody online referred to Rocky as a rock spider. Obviously not in Australia. No, because in Australia, a rock spider is a pedophile. So you don't want to call anything a rock spider. Dog says, Star Trek TV series have gone downhill. Finally, Paramount pulled the plug and gave this franchise a rest. Starfleet Academy was just dreadful, in my opinion. I enjoyed Starfleet Academy. I also like Brave New World. They're different for Star Trek, but I like them. I like the fact they're trying different things and they're diversifying and they're making it inclusive for a whole bunch of different people. It's not for everybody, and fair enough, you disagree with me. But for me, they hit. Deb says, I'm rewatching The Mandalorian and The Orville at the moment, both worthy in my opinion. So, Deb, are you going to go see The Helmet and the Muppet, the new movie? That's what I'm calling it, The Helmet and the Muppet. Deb says, watch The Shrouds, it's worth it. I will. Lee likes Starfleet Academy. Yeah, absolutely. It worked for me. And it's just, I like that. Again, you've got that thing with Giamatti and Holly Hunter and the older actors lifting the younger actors. Starfleet Academy does that incredibly well. And Paul Giamatti should get something for playing Nusbraka in Starfleet Academy. That's some god-tier acting right there. Friday says, Starfleet Academy was one of the best first seasons of a Star Trek show ever. Rafa says, the 2022 David Cronenberg science fiction body horror film I want to watch is Crimes of the Future. You should see the original Crimes of the Future as well. He's made 2 movies called Crimes of the Future. Both of them hit. Lee says, Strange New Worlds is back in July with a new season. I think it's the last season, but I'll be watching that, Lee. I like the ensemble in that. Dogset says, Mel Brooks is going to relaunch Spaceballs. Is that a good thing? Why not? I think Star Wars needs the piss taken out of it as often as possible. So I'm going to be watching Spaceballs 2. I liked Spaceballs 1. In fact, I liked it more than I liked any of the Star Wars films. Go for it. Ralph says, not to mention Carol Kane. I didn't know how much I needed her in a Star Trek until they cast it. Her and Tig Notaro, I love in Star Trek. They're not the kind of people you would have got in classic Star Trek, but their personas and their kind of compassionate humanitarianism really comes across in those series. Deb says, my partner Jeff's a Star Wars kid. I was a Trek baby. We watch all the science fiction. Fair enough. Lee needs to rewatch Spaceballs. Haven't seen it since I was a kid. Good. Friday agrees. Carol Kane's great. And Dog's Dad says, "May the Schwartz be with you." Yeah. Taking the piss out of Star Wars is great because Star Wars is a little tin god of science fiction franchises. You can't say anything against it because pitchforks and torches will come out instantly. Adam says, the only thing I watched recently is Carry On at Your Convenience, a deeply odd film, but I liked it. I like this Carry On movies. I think they're bloody silly, and sometimes you need that. Rafa says, I have an Australian friend who said to me, Umbrella Entertainment released the Universal Monster Collection. You can't wait to buy this box set. Yeah, it's been delayed, that box set of Universal horror stuff that Umbrella's doing. They had some production problems, so they've delayed it until they get the production problems fixed. I'm waiting on it as well. It's got like 45 films in it, all kind of obscure Universal horror films, some of which I've already got. But that box set is what I'm really looking forward to. It's probably the thing I'm looking forward to most this year. Ralph says, that's what's great about the place that is Star Trek. There's a place for everyone there, even the weirdos. We can all belong. Absolutely. And Friday says, the actors played Tuvok is in the original Spaceballs. Great. Lee says, ITV Retro channel on YouTube has been gradually releasing the Carry On films. I've got a lot of them on physical media because who put them out? Might have been Viavision or Umbrella. Put out a lot of Carry On movies on physical media. So I've got like that much of them. And I dip into them occasionally and have a bit of fun. D. Lee says, my first exposure to Star Wars was in the 70s, was a Marvel comic adaptation. That didn't impress me, so I went to the films with skepticism. Fair enough. Lee says, Radio 4 Extra has been broadcasting some of the old Kenneth Horne comedies starring Kenneth Williams. That Around the Horn is an interesting radio comedy show because it had gay characters. And, you know, they were making fun of the straight host as much as anything. They used a lot of gay slang of the time. Hugh Paddock, I think it was, and Kenneth Williams just mainstreamed gay culture in the early 1960s on radio, and that's kind of interesting. It's like prying open the cracks and letting a wider culture in is a really interesting phenomenon there. But yeah, Lee, Polari, the secret gay language. Suddenly it's on the radio. Polari is getting a lot of kind of academic interest as a dialect of English as much as anything. And that's interesting. It's always interesting finding interstitial parts of the world. And so many of my gay and straight friends and queer friends in general just love Around the Horn. Peter says it was Umbrella. I have 3 Carry-Ons by them. Yeah, it was Umbrella who released the Carry-On movies. Umbrella, I mean, I was kind of in my head separating what differentiates Umbrella as a releasing company from Imprint. Umbrella is kind of the grindhouse of Australian releasing companies. They'll find all this stuff. They will put wild and weird. They did the new French Extremity collection of extreme French horror films. They've done 2 volumes of that. They'll do The Toxic Avenger, whereas Imprint is upmarket from that for the most part and is putting out the quality films a lot more, even though they are putting out the Western box sets and the Tales of Adventure box sets. For the most part, they're upmarket Umbrella's grindhouse. And I kind of like that. I like the fact that we've got 2 releasing companies in Australia who are ploughing their own fields. Dick says, ITV here in the UK through the streaming service ITV have 24-hour Carry On channel. You have to sit on a commode chair and just watch them forever. Dog's dad says, forgot to ask, how are you and middle-aged geek girl doing this these days? Has Luna made an appearance? Luna hasn't made an appearance because Luna, I've left the back door open a little bit for the cats to come in and out, so I don't have to let them in and out. So Luna and Jill, the sun's just come up. I can hear the crows in the background and the ravens. So they're out the back having fun. They won't eat the crows or the ravens, but they chase them unsuccessfully. But the cats are doing fine. Sal's doing fine. She's got a couple of health issues, but nothing that's not being dealt with. I'm doing fine. I've got to get out and do a travel vlog this week, but I'm not sure what yet. But I will do that. I just released one where I went down to Lakes Entrance, which is like 400 kilometers away. So you can check that out on the other channel. But thank you for asking. Forsale says, I watched what I think is the best episode of the 7th season of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. It's called The Woman Who Wanted to Live, starring Lola Albright and Charles Bronson. You had me at Lola Albright. I really like her as an actress. Adam says, top carry-on films for me, Camping, Screaming, and Khyber. Yeah, I like Carry On Screaming a lot. What else? I like Carry On Cabby as well. It's got a very feminist approach, and the women are just ruling the roost in Carry On Cabby. Deb says, I admit I didn't really get Star Wars until my son got into it when he was little. I really like The Mandalorian and some of the newer entries, but I don't like some of the fandom. Yeah, I can see that, Deb. By the way, my son turned 34 on the weekend, and I'm feeling old. See, that's the nice thing about not having kids. You don't have to do that. Rafa says, does anyone here in Australia and New Zealand collect the Madman Entertainment Blu-rays and 4K Blu-ray discs? I've got some of them, but Madman these days are skewing toward anime and manga adaptations and things like that. They don't have as big a presence as Umbrella or Imprint. Dick says, just watch the last travel video. Love the op shop finds in between the travel footage. Yeah, that was a long day traveling to Lakes Entrance. It was, and I had 2 hours when I got there, then I had to come back again. If I had the money, I would have stayed in the hotel overnight and done more of it. But the free travel all across the state ends at the end of May. And I want to try to squeeze in one more big travel day if I can. I've got to look at the calendar and see when I can do that, because that might be a bit of fun. But yeah, the travel videos get me out of the house, and I might go in the other direction. I might go west instead of going east in the next one if I can do that. Deb says, yeah, I really enjoyed the Lakes Entrance video. Lakes Entrance is great, but because I think I went on a Tuesday, a lot of the stuff closes down except for over the weekends. So it's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. A lot of the op shops and other interesting shops are open during that time. And I picked the wrong day to go. Mind you, I wouldn't go on a weekend because while there is free travel across the state, all the trains and the buses and things like that get rammed on a Saturday or Sunday at the moment. Use of public transport, while it's all free, has gone up something like 30% across the state. So I've got to be kind of strategic about when I do those things. But it was good to get the Lakes Entrance. I talked to Sal. I'm going to try to do an overnighter there if we can at some stage in the future. And I do know somebody who lives that way. I forgot that I knew them, and I couldn't catch up with them when I was there. But I do know somebody who lives around Lakes Entrance. Rafa says, Umbrella Entertainment released a Danish neo-noir trilogy. Pusher one, yeah, I've got the Pusher trilogy. I still have it, or did I sell it? Yeah, with Mads Mikkelsen. Very dark kind of drug crime trilogy of films. There's a lot of really obscure stuff that Umbrella brings out that's really crazily good. But yeah, the Pusher trilogy came out. I believe it did well for them, which is nice, because in the English language sphere, nobody was really putting out the Pusher trilogy at the time. I think there's since been a release in the US, but one of the nice things that Umbrella and Imprint are doing at the moment, Imprint Vision are doing at the moment, is they're doing their own restorations of movies. So they're upscaling them, they're cleaning them up, and then releasing them. So they're not relying on US or UK restorations anymore. Where they can, they're doing their own cleanups on things. And there are companies here in Australia that specialize in cleaning up video. And so people in the US, and I go onto a few channels that have got live streams, and people in the US are pissed off because there's not a US release of this movie, even though there is an Australian release which is on 4K and looks beautiful. And I kind of got to laugh at them a little bit because that's our experience. Try buying a Severin movie or a Vinegar Syndrome movie or even a Criterion movie in Australia. You're going to have to take out a mortgage. The prices are really big. So where Australian releasing companies are putting out movies that are restorations that are really good and are obscure but very worthy films, I kind of like that. But Americans get very pissed off when there's only an Australian release of a really good film that's been restored. Okay, what else have I been watching? Where's my what I've been watching list? I'll send you the link for this list as well. This is my letterboxd. I'll post a link for you guys to look at them later. You can keep up to date with what I've been watching. Okay, back to the list. Someone on a chat reminded me of this film. Well, actually told me about this film. It's from 1934, and it's a real obscurity called Double Door. Which is a really kind of dark thriller film, pre-code, directed by Charles Vidor. It stars Evelyn Venables, Mary Morris, Anne Rivera, and Ken Taylor. I'll read this off Wikipedia for you. The film follows a young bride who finds herself tormented by her wealthy husband's abusive spinster sister in their New York mansion. That is a wild film. If you can find a copy of Double Door, which I believe may be on YouTube, it's a crazy thriller with a totally psycho woman at the heart of it, played by Mary Morris. It's just amazing. Yeah, it might have been You for Sale. It's a scary movie, absolutely. It's wild. It's got a nice ending on it, based on a stage play as well. Thank you for that, by the way, For Sale. I appreciate that. But Double Door is good value. Doesn't outstay its welcome. And the toxic privilege of the woman played by Mary Morris in that is, it just sears the screen. Rafa, there's probably not going to be 8K Blu-rays coming out soon because 4K is about as much as the human eye can handle. Anything above that is just frivolous. So 4K is probably going to be the main tier in the future as far as physical media is concerned. Blu-ray still looks good. I mean, I like the way Blu-ray looks. I like the way 4K looks. I even like the way most DVDs look. But you can't keep being a size queen on physical media formats. It's just like self-defeating. And also, to make an 8K Blu-ray, it takes a lot of time and money to even make a 4K Blu-ray. 8K is 4 times as much. So it's probably not likely that they're going to be doing that anytime soon. Lee says, one Mickelson that stayed with me is The Hunt. Truly haunting. Yeah, absolutely. Dick says, Carol's off to bed, so say goodnight. Okay, good night, Carol. Sleep well. Won't give you a high five, it'll hurt your hand. But yeah, there's just so much cool stuff. Let's see what I've got on the list. By the way, super chats are still available. Bum, bum, bum. Other stuff I've picked up. Let's go beneath this. I'm going to give you a sneak preview of next Science Fiction Saturday with this. But I did a kind of, not a quiz, but I did a focus group for YouTube, and they sent me a voucher for Amazon. That's okay, Dick, I'll put up with you. And I bought stuff with the voucher I got for doing the survey for YouTube, just giving them feedback. And I picked up this. Might not be for everybody, but it's a genre I'm not unfamiliar with. Cinema au Naturel, A History of Nudist Films by Mark Story. I picked up that because I do like my movie reference books. And it's basically, I'm not going to show you any of the pictures, but it's basically a history of nudist films. And I kind of like the fact that I've now got a reference book for that. Yeah. Good fun. Don't approve of the stars over the nipples, but, can't have everything. The quirky world of nudist films is revealed. So I got that. It's a pretty thick book. Love the fact that I've got it. Totally approve of this message. And then over at Collector Creations channel, Julian's channel, my friend Julian, he had a competition to get a copy of a Blu-ray, and I won the competition. He had about like 10 copies of this given to him. And so I haven't watched it yet, but it's Good Boy, a horror movie seen from the perspective of a dog. Okay, Raph has to go. Need to leave now. Yeah, take care. Look after yourself, mate. And thanks for being part of things. Appreciate that, Rafa. But yeah, I've got a copy of Good Boy. Haven't watched it yet. It's on my pile to watch. I hear good things about it. There's the back cover. Yeah, Adam says first Animal Award winner. Yep, so I'm going to watch that. And I don't mind a free movie. I always like that. So I'm going to watch Good Boy. Then I was looking for a copy of this movie trilogy because I wanted to do it for Science Fiction Saturday. And I looked on Amazon. I did an initial scan. And there's 4K copies of this trilogy out, which are egregiously expensive. Exchange rates aren't kind to Australia. Then I dived deeper and I found a Spanish Blu-ray copy of the trilogy. It's a movie trilogy I'm familiar with. I saw the first movie in the cinema in the 70s when it came out. But I got the It's Alive trilogy in the Spanish language edition. It's Alive 2, It Lives Again, and It's Alive 3, Island of the Alive. So I've got all three of those to watch. I like It's Alive. It's a Larry Cohen film. It's just great. And inside, you got a fold-out case as well, which is kind of cool. You got all three movies. And they also have art cards in here as well. And I got this for like $50 Australian. Which one am I going to show? Can't show all of these. It's about a bunch of mutant babies that are born who are better adapted to a polluted world. They're dead feral. Babies born, tears apart everybody in the operating theatre and escapes through the vents. They're highly intelligent. They're highly feral. You see that there. Crazy movies. The first one in particular. But It's Alive is just peak 1970s horror film with a twist on it. Killer Babies is just such an off-the-wall and interesting concept that Larry Cohen delivers well. And I've got all three of them for a reasonable price. And that's going to be Science Fiction Saturday next week, or next Saturday. I'm going to review all three of the movies. And I just love the fact that I've got a copy of them. Adam says, It's Alive is great. Not seen the other two. Think I started watching the Michael Moriarty one, but never finished. Yes, possible. Michael Moriarty, too, in The Stuff and in Q the Winged Serpent. Crazy and goofy and weird and kind of oddly lovable all at the same time. Yeah, so Estoy Vivo, It's Alive trilogy is going to be Science Fiction Saturday this week. And I've got some other things. Friday says, who will watch a Killer Babies versus Killer Rabbits movie? I think it'd be a CGI fest if you did that, Friday. But It's Alive is kind of interesting because it flips the narrative. Babies are precious to every society. And the idea of having babies that are basically little Wolverines, not like Hugh Jackman Wolverines, but actual Wolverines, was a brilliant concept. It's a really gonzo idea, and Larry Cohen runs with it really well. So I'm going to be watching that. I've also got some Filipino horror movies series that I'm waiting to get delivered, and so I'm looking forward to those as well. They're going to be fun. What are they called again? Just a sec. I'll get my order list up because I did get they're the complete Blood Island films from the Philippines. It's called Fear in the Philippines, the complete Blood Island films. I also spent the money that I got from my jury duty on 3 Shaw Brothers spy movies in a series called Super Spies and Secret Lies. 3 undercover classics from Shaw Brothers. And I'm looking forward to those as well. So I'm going to be hitting some obscure films, but interesting ones. And this is the start of them. Looking forward to those. They were all purchased with, in a sense, found money, things I did from jury duty and other things. Adam says, there's a scene in The Last Detail where Jack Nicholson is being interrogated by Michael Moriarty. Interesting that King wanted Moriarty for The Shining. Great scene anyway, yeah. Yeah, you're right, Forsyth. Candy Clark was great in the Larry Cohen movies. In Q the Winged Serpent in particular, where she slaps Michael Moriarty around. Candy Clark was really interesting as an actress. And the Larry Cohen films are just the best. Dick says, picked up a box set of the It's Alive films some time ago in a charity shop. I think 2 of them are still sealed for £1. Haven't got around to watching them. They're fun. The third one I think's a little bit different. Haven't rewatched that one for a very, very long time. But I like the first 2. Fairly low budget. Great monster baby effects. Just looking forward to those. And I got a couple of these Mexican and Spanish box sets of things before, and the quality is always good. They're not just putting out cheap shit with torn up prints of movies. The quality is always fantastic in these. And yes, you've got to kind of take off the Spanish subtitles in your menus, but there's a small price to pay for getting these movies at a reasonable price. Shopping around internationally sometimes pays. And I do like the fact that it does. It's one of the ways we work around not only exchange rates problems here in Australia, but the premium prices being put on box sets of movies. Yeah, it's nice to have tons and tons of extras. I've got no problem with that. But when I'm doing it. I mean, I did the It's Alive trilogy for the channel specifically, not just for me and my collection. And finding a reasonably priced trilogy of them on Blu-ray, so it's not like a cheapo DVD low-res copy, is something that I really want to do on the channel and really like doing on the channel. Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you one of the trivia things. Hi, Anthony. Very old DVD, Mad Doctor of Blood Island. Very entertaining Filipino horror film. Yeah, I'm going to do the whole Blood Island movies. I think there's 4 of them. And I got them fairly cheaply too, which is amazing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you one of the trivia questions I had waiting for Super Chats. So it's not a trivia question. It's a piece of movie trivia. I've got about 6 of them. I've done this one. I've done a whole video about this on the channel before, but it was so long ago. It's past the attention horizon of YouTube. It's about Emil Jannings, the first man to ever win a Best Actor Oscar in the very first Academy Awards. It was won by Emil Jannings for 2 different films because they hadn't nailed down one actor, one film at that stage. Emil Jannings wins the Best Actor Oscar for the first Academy Awards. Tickets to the Academy Awards were $5 at that stage. Only Best Actor Oscar winner to ever become a Nazi. He became a Nazi and became persona non grata in 1945 because of that. Was the only acknowledged Nazi who's ever won an Oscar. These days, they're a lot better at hiding it than they used to be. But it's really weird that the first guy to win a Best Actor Oscar hung out with Goering and Goebbels and all those geezers, all during the Nazi regime. Deb says, there's a Kurosawa box set coming up soon, but I don't know if I can justify buying it. Fair enough. Yeah, for so The Last Laugh was one of the movies that Emil Jannings won the Oscar for. And he does turn up, I think, in a Tarantino movie. The character turns up in a Tarantino movie as well. Inglourious Basterds. I think somebody introduces somebody to Emil Jannings in that movie. But yeah, every time I watch the Oscars, I think, yeah, it's really nice that he won the Best Actor Oscar. But the tradition has its dark spots as well. The other good news is the Daily Wire, which is a right-wing media company founded by Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring, that do right-wing movies. They do some really egregious anti-gay, anti-diversity, anti-LGBTQIA movies. They've just gone bankrupt. The Daily Wire has just gone bankrupt. So they're going to stop making those movies. That's good news. D. Lee says that Emil Jannings only got the Oscar after the Academy was told to forget their first choice, Rin Tin Tin, because the dog was seen as too silly. Yeah. And I've never seen a dog that, apart from potentially Good Boy, that did a really nuanced performance in a movie. Yeah, Deb, it is good news. Daily Wire has gone tits up because people think that hate sells, but ultimately hate doesn't sell. Hate is its own punishment. And being a mean-spirited piece of shit is not a good business model for most things. Unless, of course, you can become a president. Friday says, Daily Wire is stuffed after it stopped receiving money from Hungary. Yeah, it was Orban financing it. That's kind of interesting. They did a movie called Terror on the Prairie, a Western starring Gina Carano. Yeah, that's always going to sell. And in 2022, they announced they were going to produce Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged as a series, as a movie. And they did a movie, this is egregious, called Lady Ballers, about a male basketball team that pretends to be trans so they can win some sports ball. That's the kind of level these guys were working at. And I hope they lose their houses. Just, it's good to see the tide is definitely turning on that kind of propaganda organization. Yeah, Christian McGangus says that's like the movie Faust with the actor who figuratively sells his soul to the Nazis. Yeah, that's not the Faust that I've got. I think I've got the Murnau Faust, which is earlier. But there are some egregious movies that were made during the Nazi regime, but there are also movies that weren't bad. There's a thing called Hitler's Hollywood. It's a documentary about the movies that were made during the Nazi regime. And not all of them were pro-Nazi or bad. They did a really good version of Titanic with some incredible life-size practical special effects. And they did musicals. They did Sherlock Holmes movies. They did a whole bunch of stuff. And if you can find a copy of the documentary Hitler's Hollywood, it's an interesting look into the media of that period of German history. Dealey says, oh, good, a film of Atlas Shrugged. That's what the world needs. There's already been 3 Atlas Shrugged movies that were made on like $2 million budgets. You can find them if you look around. I don't recommend you do. But they are all incredibly bad. And the trilogy has different actors playing one character because they couldn't get the actors back for the second and third films. They recast a lot of the main cast in each of the 3 movies. And they try to make it in a contemporary world where railways are the way of the future, not planes. I've seen them. I saw them a decade ago, maybe. They are incredibly bad. The computer-generated effects and the green screen stuff is piss yourself laughable. Don't recommend you watch them, but if you're inclined to, go ahead. But yeah, Atlas Shrugged has already been made into a movie. And it doesn't work in a 21st century context. It doesn't work in a political context either. Let's see what else I can find out about Daily Wire. They made a documentary in 24 called Am I Racist? A satirical documentary comedy film about a bumbling DEI trainee. Amazing. Someone's going to do a documentary about Daily Wire at some stage and just show what kind of shitstorm it was. And I am immensely glad that it's not been a success. But let's get on to other stuff. What else did I watch? I was on a roll of watching kind of comedy horror films just to get away from the comedy horror happening in the world itself. And I watched Ready or Not, which is a good... Hang on, what's it doing to me? What's it doing to me? Is the live stream still going? Because I've got a verification thing coming up where my bloody thing is asking me to verify myself in the middle of a live stream. Give me a moment. Okay, still live, yeah. It comes up with a verification thing at the moment, which is really, really shit. And I'm not sure Why? Yeah, Christian McCangus. It could have been Mephisto. Or it could have been Faust. I'm not sure. But yeah, Daily Wire weird. So I did watch Ready or Not, which is a story about this woman who marries into a family that makes games and playing cards and things. And 100 years ago, the family sold its soul to the devil. And at the wedding of a new member of the family, a card game is played. And the game that comes out of the card game has to be played. In this case, it's hide and seek. And what has to happen is, if that card comes up, the bride has to be sacrificed to the devil. Otherwise, bad things happen to the family. Samara Weaving stars as a bride who doesn't know any of this is going on until somebody starts shooting at her with a crossbow. And she has to defeat the whole family and stay alive. There's some really gross out horror in it. It's funny. It works. There's a sequel I haven't watched it yet. But Ready or Not, I was ready for, because after I watched a couple of other horror films and enjoy them, in this case, They Will Kill You and Cannibal Mukbang, I thought I'd watch Ready or Not. I recommend it. It's fun. Samara Weaving is really good in it. Again, Nepo Baby, her uncle's Hugo Weaving. But she is fantastic in this film. Commits to the bit, does a lot of physical stuff in the film. And it's very, very funny. So I'm going to watch the sequel in the next couple of days. But recommend Ready or Not. Deb says Ready or Not is great. Looking forward to the sequel. The Fountainhead was a fun, silly film. Yeah, The Fountainhead I like. Dick says, we can hear you, Clem Fandango. I got that reference. Toast of London. Friday says, I like the Fountainhead movie. I don't really think they understood how well it underlines how the main character takes things too far. And there's a lot of phallic symbolism in that film. You can have a drinking competition watching The Fountainhead, which has Gary Cooper and Patricia Neal in it. And every time there's a phallic symbol in there, you have a drink. You'll be pissed by halfway through the film. Four Star says, Shaun of the Dead was pretty funny. Yeah, it was. And this is very much in that kind of style. And there's also a sub-genre at the moment of evil rich people who have got a supernatural advantage being taken on by working class people. They Will Kill You's got that. There's a whole subgenre of kill the rich in horror movies at the moment. And I think it will continue. I think punching upwards will always amuse an audience because most of us are not the people being punched up at. But yeah, if you can see The Fountainhead, maybe on YouTube, hilariously funny from a modern viewpoint. Gary Cooper's miscast. He's cast right physically. But him giving didactic speeches about individualism kind of doesn't quite hit. Friday says, Eat the Rich. Yep, that's another movie too. There are just so many of them. And I think it's going to be one of the motifs of certain kinds of pop cultural movies in our current decade is rich people are evil. And we should acknowledge that. We should also mock them in horror films. I'm there for that. Always have been. So, yeah, that's the interesting thing. Genres turn up sometimes for less than a decade and fully develop. And then as their moment ends, they ebb. There are any number of different film genres, and I'm building a video about that at the moment where I'm talking about film genres that are no longer part of the world. And I've got about 10 or 12 different genres that are interesting. They're all good, interesting, of the moment film genres, but they're just not around anymore because the moment has passed. And I really want to do that. Ralph says, come here back to Lemmy, Eat the Rich. Yeah, Eat the Rich is great. Christian says, in the Fountainhead, we have an architect fighting to get his ugly modernist skyscraper built in a time when modernist skyscrapers were actually popular. Yeah. And he thinks it's the only way to make things. Frank Gehry would have pissed him off. Sorry, swallowed some water, went down the wrong way. By the way, I'm really enjoying, for my birthday, I spent part of my birthday money getting a Kindle. I did have one, but it was on the way out. Really enjoying getting back into reading novels on Kindle. And I'm having fun with that too. There's a new Kim Newman novel out. I just put it on my Kindle. So I'm looking forward to reading that one as well. So it's not just movies for me. I do read things occasionally. And not just books about nudist cinema. But yeah, I recommend The Fountainhead. But just don't buy the philosophy of it. It's not going to do you well. Just thinking about upcoming movies. Any upcoming movies that people are interested in seeing? By the way, give the video a thumbs up if you can, because it always helps with the algorithm. But any upcoming movies? We'll talk about upcoming movies now. Let's see what I can find doing a quick Google search because we're on brain fried. I'm not looking forward to Disclosure Day, the Steven Spielberg movie. Not looking forward to that at all because it's a Steven Spielberg movie. Let's see. Lots of Indian films. There's a Japanese movie. Is it Japanese or South Korean? Let me have a look at this. I'm looking. There's a Hong Kong film called. It's actually Korean. I apologize. It's called Chow UFO. Coming of age tale of 4 childhood friends. After witnessing a mysterious extraterrestrial event, their lives had changed drastically, drifting away from each other. So I'm not sure whether that's actually a genre film or not. Tons and tons of things coming up. Come on, what's up? I kind of want to see The Christophers, which is a new movie with Ian McKellen and Michaela Cole in it. Directed by Steven Soderbergh. I liked Soderbergh's last 2 movies, so I'm probably going to watch that at some stage. As I said, Disclosure Day is coming up. There's a new Minions movie called Minions and Monsters. I've never watched Minions movies. Supergirl's coming up in June. I want to see a Supergirl movie because I do like James Gunn's DC universe. Friday says, controversial opinion. Frank Lloyd Wright was a bad architect. Beautiful buildings, but badly engineered, terrible to live in. Yeah, I've heard that. Particularly that one with the waterfall through it is a nightmare to maintain. Dealer says, have I read Ascension by Martin McGuinness? Good contemporary science fiction. Not yet. Friday's looking forward to The Christophers as well. Does Middle-Aged Geek Girl ever accompany me to the cinema? Funny you should mention that because that's something I'm going to talk about. It's on the list. Cinemaniacs, the film appreciation group that I go to, had a session a week and a half ago. Saturday, not last Saturday, Saturday before. And I got Middle-Aged Geek Girl to come with me to the Astor Cinema, the last single-screen cinema in Melbourne. 1930s Art Deco cinema. It's a lovely place. I love it. And we went to the Cinemaniacs session, which had, and a lot of you are going to love this, The Lost Boys and Horror of Dracula, the first Christopher Lee Dracula movie, as a double feature. And we went and saw that together because Middle-Aged Geek Girl is a big vampire film girl. And she loved Lost Boys with Kiefer Sutherland and all of those guys, and Jason Patrick, and both Corey's. Peak 1980s horror cinema. So Lost Boys was on first. There was a talk about it beforehand. I actually won a movie in the raffle, a premium edition of Tremors I got in the raffle. Dogstad says, I thought she was into sharks. She's into more than one genre. She's large and contains multitudes. But yeah, so we saw Lost Boys. We saw the Christopher Lee Dracula on the big screen for the first time. And that horror of Dracula is really sexual. Dracula is seducing these women away from their upright Christian virtuous husbands and boyfriends and fiancés. And it's almost like he's taking these women away for nefarious purposes. Very, very, for 1950s, 1959, I think it is, very sexualized Dracula. What about vampire sharks? Mag will leave the house for shark. Yeah, sure, she does. Vampire shark movies, yeah, somebody's going to do it. But Lost Boys we had fun with. Dracula we had fun with. We went out for a pub meal beforehand because we know where there's a really nice pub nearby to get a pub meal. It's not too expensive. So we had a good time doing that. I love the fact that if you time it right, you can get parking 50 meters away from the Astor. And that's in a very busy part of Melbourne on a Saturday night, but you can still get parking there. I love that. Deb says, I'm going to go see the Helmet and the Muppet with Jeff, probably this weekend. I want to see this Christopher's Tuna and Backrooms. Yeah, I want to see Exit 8 as well. Backrooms looks interesting. I think Backrooms and Exit 8 are going to be interesting movies to watch. And from what I understand, they both come out of a YouTube background. There are a lot of, particularly horror movie directors, Raka Raka being the kind of start of that. A lot of YouTube filmmakers are now becoming horror movie directors in their own right and in a mainstream way. YouTube is their training ground. It's the place where they learn how to make movies and learn how to cut movies together, learn how to do practical special effects and also computer generated effects. And there are a lot of YouTube movie makers who are getting interesting careers and bringing something new to particularly horror cinema. Dealey says, The Mandalorian sounds like an early string instrument. It does. Dog's dad said, will the James Bond franchise be ruined by Amazon? It's hard to tell at the moment. They haven't produced anything. They haven't announced any particular product. I've seen the trailer for the James Bond computer game, and that looks interesting. That's got all the vibe. But as far as movies and other things concerned, I'll wait till something has been filmed before I judge it. I really don't know. I hope it does well, but we won't know until there's actually something to either critique or complain about or celebrate. It's impossible to know at this stage. Dealey says, Exit 8 is good, disturbing and disconcerting. Yeah. Forsyth says, YouTube features some great award-winning short horror films. I've been down that rabbit hole many times. Also science fiction movies. There are some interesting short science fiction movies, like 1 Minute Time Machine, which is really funny. There's a lot of stuff to dive down in YouTube. Peter says, YouTuber Chris Stuckman's Shelby Oaks was conceived on YouTube. Yeah, unfortunately for Chris, it didn't do well. It was a dream project for him, of course. But I've seen the reviews. I haven't seen Shelby Oaks myself yet. But I've seen reviews, and the reviews do seem to take it apart in a way that makes me think, even though it is his dream project, it's a little too derivative. Having said that, I am on the Kickstarter for Stuart Ashen's movie. He's doing another movie. He's done a couple of comedy movies about computer gaming before, but he's doing a new one, which is a horror film. And it's in the can. It's just in the edit at the moment. But I have supported that on Kickstarter because he's got a track record of delivering. And when it comes out, I'm getting a Blu-ray copy of it, and I will review it on the channel. I forget what it's called. It's a horror movie with a twist. So I'm looking forward to seeing that when it comes out, and I get my physical media copy of it. I did pony up, I think, about $100 Australian to support the movie. And I've got his other movies on DVD. I've got the box set from him. So it's interesting to see what Ashens does with that, because Stuart Ashen's been on YouTube for 15 years. And he has delivered several movies before that. So I'm looking forward to that one. Adam says, do you think the look of video game James Bond just looks like a bloke in an average kind of pub? It is a bit generic, but from what I understand, the character's playable as either Sean Connery James Bond or later era James Bond, depending on the path you choose in the game. And that's kind of interesting. The character itself changes depending on what kind of James Bond you want. And I like that flexibility. But I think YouTube's starting to have an influence on mainstream culture, which is what's happening with those YouTube creators who are going mainstream. The Markiplier movie that he did, which I didn't particularly like, but other people did, shows that YouTubers are mainstream. Some of them are self-financing, some of them aren't. But the talent pool, which is learning on this platform, is really, really doing well. On the whole, there are going to be failures, of course. Any group of people who go into making movies, not all of them are going to hit. And some people are going to take the punch and then learn from it. Some people are going to take the punch and run away. But it's interesting that this platform has developed into a training ground for young people who want to tell stories. But Deb says, I'm not that interested in James Bond, but respect those who are keen. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I was born into Bond mania almost. I knew people that were reading novels when I was a kid, saw the movies. I mean, I was at the drive-in and we saw From Russia with Love and Goldfinger. Fell asleep during Goldfinger, but I remember From Russia with Love when I was a very small kid at the drive-in. So that James Bond stuff's in my blood. Roger Moore era forgiven, but I want to see what happens with James Bond. I think it's going to be a bit of a shock to a lot of people that you get a younger James Bond, because all of us have aged, and so we don't expect James Bond to be younger than us. It's like when, and this happened earlier, I'm slightly older than Barack Obama, and suddenly you're older than an American president. And you go, what the fuck happened there? Or you're older than an Australian Prime Minister. That's going to inevitably happen, and that's going to happen with James Bond. And some people aren't going to take that well. I'll diss Roger Moore if I like. He was a shit James Bond. He was good as a saint, but he was Timu James Bond. Max Payne says, good for YouTubers who sure aren't getting anything original from big media. Innovation and new things always come from the outside. They don't come from in the middle. They come from outliers. And YouTubers in the media landscape are always outliers. And they're moving inwards and are bringing new things. And things like Blumhouse and other horror movie companies, and A24 as a distribution company. All of these guys came from the outside and are bringing new things to the mainstream. Always look to the edge of things, and you're going to find where the good stuff is. Roger Corman never started out mainstream. He was always an edge guy doing drive-in movies and things like that. Deb's going to have to head off. Got a big day surrounded by work. Have a good day. Take care, Deb. Thanks for being part of this. Have fun, and thanks again for enabling her physical media addiction. I'm pretty sure you had that handle on that anyway. But yeah, we got 10 minutes left. Anything people want to add in the last 10 minutes of this? Because I'm very happy to answer questions, solve riddles, whatever you want to do. But yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to whatever happens with the James Bond franchise. I know Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon, who owns James Bond, wants his wife to be a Bond girl. Not sure that's a good idea because she's had more reconstruction work than the Sistine Chapel. But we'll see how that goes. I think I saw something. This is kind of interesting too. There wasn't a sequel to Danger Diabolic, if that's what you mean. What's my favorite weird movie? Franny says. That's a good question, Franny. Let me think. So many to think of. I like It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. That's a lot of fun. I like big ensemble movies like that bring everybody in. And there were a whole bunch of Hills of Poppin'. I love Olsen and Johnson's Hills of Poppin'. I'll settle for that one. That's a weird movie. It was so much fun. Visual gags everywhere, verbal gags everywhere. It's in a mad world, and I really want to get a better copy of Hills of Poppin' than I've got. Jeff Bezos could be a James Bond villain, says Captain Lacy. You're right. And D. Lee says, if Bezos has the rights to Superman films, would do you want to play Lex Luthor? Who knows? But one of the things that I thought, Peter, ready, aim, fire. Peter, thank you for the $10 super chat. And you also get a bit of trivia. Got my bit of trivia book here. I'll pick out a good one for you, mate. Yeah, Dilly, Hills of Poppin' is one. Here's your trivia, Peter. Hitchcock introduced a flushing toilet to cinema in 1960 with Psycho, where there was stuff that went down the gurgler. I think it was pieces of paper. So it's something that everybody used every day. Didn't appear in cinema until 1960. But a 1930 comedy movie called Going Wild had the first audible toilet flush in cinema history. So toilets, these days, every high school comedy has someone's head in the toilet. But toilets were taboo until 1960. But the sound of one flushing got into a comedy in 1930, pre-code. So toilets in cinema is your trivia thing. Dog's Dad says, what's my coffee of choice these days? It's always espresso, but I've got a roaster called Mahalia Coffee, which is about 500 kilometres away on the limestone coast of South Australia in a place called Robe. And they're really good coffee makers. And I've got a subscription with them. Every 2 weeks, they send me 2 500-gram bags of coffee. And they don't charge postage. And I'll get them at a really good price. So I did that all through lockdowns. They were my go-to for lockdown coffee when I couldn't get out of the house because of lockdowns. And so Mahalia delivered coffee with no postage charges. Still do. That's my go-to. Double shot espresso. I'm allowed to have 3 a day according to my doctor. And I stick to that strictly. and 2 in the morning, 1 around lunchtime, and that's it. So that's my go-to coffee. Friday says, Blazing Saddles, Pioneer Farts and Movies. And Adam likes Hells of Poppin' as well. Dogster says, are biddies taboo on B-Days? Probably not. I've seen B-Days in a number of films as far back as the 70s. Dilo says, Will Hayes, the censor, not the comedian, probably kept toilets off films. Yeah, I think it's stupid because everybody uses them every day. They're a part of our life. And I don't see why they should be taboo. Toilets are essential. But yeah, there was a taboo on them until Hitchcock managed to get one in. Hitchcock was always transgressive in various ways. Tell you what, given it's near the end of thing, outhouses were in movies a lot, yeah, but they never showed you the actual toilet for sale. I'll give you one more trivia just to use up the trivia I got. Adam says, if you go on a date at the cinema and your date announces they're going to fart and does so big, is that a bad sign? I think probably the thing to do will be for them to get up and go to the toilet and then fart. The chat's come down to toilet talk. Let's change it. Carry on at your convenience as B-Days as a plot point, says Franny. Thank you, Franny. You know the scenes in The Wizard of Oz where it's snowing and the whole area is covered in snow in The Wizard of Oz. This is your next trivia thing. That snow was made out of asbestos. No kidding. It was mesothelioma falling from the skies. And artificial snow, in real life, you can buy it for your Christmas decorations, was all made out of asbestos fibers. So when you watch Wizard of Oz next and you see it snowing, just know it probably killed a whole bunch of people. So there you go. Asbestos in Wizard of Oz. And some of them were painted in lead. Yeah. I know Buddy Ebsen had to leave from being the Tin Man because he had an allergic reaction to the aluminium paint they put on him. Yep. Especially the Munchkins, yeah. But asbestos was a part of things. I used to live when I was a kid, I lived in a fibro house. And fibro, the material they made the house out of, was made out of plaster and asbestos. I remember as a kid, I was told never to break off pieces of the wall. And if the wall cracked, we patched it up really quickly. Because even in those days, people knew asbestos was bad for you. Friday says, that was so it didn't burn back when Christmas tree lights were candles. Yeah, absolutely. But not a good idea. And besides that, it doesn't snow at Christmas. Christmas is when you have barbecues. Christmas is beaches. And Christmas is outdoors. What's the idea of having snow at Christmas time? It doesn't make sense. But yeah, we've gone from toilets to asbestos. And trivia questions. And we got Nazis, we got toilets, and we got asbestos as our 3 trivia questions or 3 trivia information dumps for the day. And that's a really good place to end this live stream. So we really must knock that naughty clock that says it's time to go. It goes so fast. Our time has passed. And we must end our show. So we're almost done. Thanks again to everybody that's been part of this. I really appreciate it. It's been fun. We talked about a lot of movies, done a bit of show and tell. We've even seen a book about nudist cinema, which is fantastic. And thanks, Dogs Dad. Thanks, Franny. Thanks, Dick. Thanks, Dee Lee. Thanks, Forsale. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, everybody that's been a part of this. Listen, look after yourselves. I'm going to go off to do the rest of my day. So take care of yourselves. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another live stream. Be back with another video probably on Wednesday or Thursday. I'll catch you later.